What a mess.
Yes, and one chooses one's comments with extreme care in the circumstances. Yeah. But I can see why the Sun wound up in the position they were in, because they had a source that they believed in and thought was a source of truth, which was the mother of the person concerned. And I don't imagine they saw coming at them the lawyer for the party concerned taking a really quite different perspective. So there is that. But the BBC would always emphasise their intention both to respect the presumption of innocence on the part of anyone who's accused of something, and secondly, their right to privacy and as far as it extends to them being named. So whilst there are names being bandied about, we certainly shan't be saying them.
Yep.
It is worth emphasising to your viewers, especially given the tendency of people to say things online as if they are cost-free, that people who repeat a libel or spread one that they've heard from somewhere else can find themselves individually and personally liable for that libel. So to give an example from the past, when Lord McAlpine was wrongly accused of being involved in criminality, he and his lawyers took action against those who had repeated that untruthful allegation. And I forget where the line was, whether it was 2,000 followers or 5,000 followers, but it wasn't that many followers that got you over the line on social media to mean that they would bring a case against you. And many, many people got in trouble as a result. So be careful what you type.
Well, I'm being very careful, and I'm sitting here, obviously, you know, when you know who is involved, it's very hard because then you keep telling yourself, don't say the name, don't say the name, don't say the name. So then you get really quite kind of anxious and tongue-tied and all the rest of it. Obviously, we're not going to say any names. One of the problems with the Great British society is that we love a bit of a scandal. When there's a scandal unfolding, we can't help ourselves. We're getting the popcorn, we're getting involved, we're getting into it, and then everything kind of snowballs. So whether or not this whole... I always found that kind of public interest line quite a fascinating one, because just because the public is interested in something doesn't always mean that it is in the public interest for things to be shared.
No, I would like us to go back to the times when scandals were aired in court under the rules of evidence and under the supervision of the judge. I don't think that the presumption of innocence is served by things being discussed before they get to court, if ever they get to court. And I think it's been one of the many bad ways in which our society has copied American society, where I don't think the fact that a court case is approaching really inhibits discussion of such things at all, whereas here it just must. And I think that those rules have been relaxed lately, and I'm sorry about it. I think the presumption of innocence is one of the absolute pillars of liberty and justice, and all of us, particularly actually people in the media, have an especially strong duty to stick by it.
Yeah, so if we broaden it out from that, the examples to generalities, that you can see why somebody who wants something to change, they want a relationship between their child, who they've seen on these facts go off the rails, and a prominent person. And, of course, on their account, all they want is the exchange to stop. It's not that they say they say they didn't want the investigation of the BBC and so forth. So the question, I suppose, would be: imagine for a moment there was no illegality, right? There was nothing untoward as far as the law was concerned that would attach to the point that Peter makes, that scandal must be heard in court or otherwise. As a desperate parent, you might think, well, where else can I turn but the media? By the way, it seems that this person wasn't paid for their story when they took it to the Sun. Right? What else can I do but take it to the media? So there is a flip side to that notion that it's the court and only the courts that can talk about it. Yeah,
it's all very odd. And, I mean, some people are saying that parliamentary privilege should be invoked and that an MP should go into Parliament and name this person.
Yeah, I mean, look, Peter's point about there being processes, people have always tried to find ways around such restrictions. That's why members of Parliament read out vast wadges of Spycatcher, which actually, on reading, I found pretty dull compared to the restrictions they put around it, to circumvent those restrictions on what could be said in public. But... you know, I do take your point. There was a time when these things were heard in court rather than heard in the papers of the press.
Well, do you know what? I shall leave you to ponder that, because it is a minefield. I'm telling you now, when you're sitting here desperate for something not to accidentally fall out of your mouth, it is a challenge. I can tell you that for free.